This is SciByte, episode 67 for October 16th, 2012. Hi everyone, and welcome to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast, live every Tuesday night and fresh for download Wednesday mornings over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our host, Heather. Hey there, Heather.
Hey there, Chris.
Hey Heather, happy science to you.
Happy science.
Okay, so what are we talking about tonight?
Today, we're going to take a look at the 2012 Nobel Awards in Physics, Felix Baumgartner's jump, exoplanets, dentists, spacecraft, and curiosity updates, and as always, take a peek back in history and up in the sky this week.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to make one disclaimer up front. I only plan to refer to him as Felix, so that way I can save some sort of face for this episode. And with that declaration, I say, let's move into the news. All right, Heather, what is our first news story tonight?
All right, the 2012 Nobel Award in Physics. The reason I talk about this one specifically is because there was a lot of debate about whether the Higgs-Boson would be up for nomination.
Right.
It did not win. What did win, I'll talk about quickly and then move on to the why nots of Higgs. What did win was an American physicist and a French physicist were named winners for groundbreaking experiment methods that enabled measuring and manipulation of individual quantum systems. Okay, that's a mouthful. Essentially what they did is they were able to make ultra-precise clocks that could lead to computers being much faster than they are today. You know, methods to peer into weird quantum worlds, because everything goes crazy. They don't follow specific rules all the time. But what it would do possibly is, not in the near-time future, kind of far away, that a quantum computer could theoretically have 0, 1, and 0 at 1 all at the same time.
Oh, that'd be incredibly powerful.
Yes. So, make all sorts of calculations, blazing speed. I believe one place that said the difference between computers now and a quantum computer would be essentially a difference between computer and no computer.
When can I get one in a smartphone?
Well, let's see. First, we're probably going to hit military and or governmental, then big giant school computers that it's going to take a lot to filter down to our iPhones or your iPhone. So
it's going to be one of those things that once it's out there, the future generations will look back at what we have today as quaint toys.
Yeah, be like, aw, how cute.
They could do 1 or a 0, and sometimes they could do them really fast. That is so cute.
Yeah, I know. Kind of like, you look back at the slide rule and you're like, how do you work this thing? You kind of shake it.
Or the abacus.
Yeah,
abacus, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go back to the abacus, but I decided to be a little bit more
it was good. It was
topical.
Good. The sextant. I mean, we could keep going. Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting. And of course, it's something that I've heard a lot about over the years, but it seems like more and more science around it is coming out, and it's actually starting to sound like something that people are starting to wrap their head around. Yeah. So that's part of the reason why I got that. It was actually funny. They always award them on December the 10th for Alfred Nobel's death in 1896 on the anniversary of. But they tell you a long time, before. We obviously know about them now, but they call the people up. So the Frenchman is, walking down the street, and they call him up, and they're like, on the road, and he's like, I found the nearest bench to sit on, and then I finished talking to the Nobel Committee. Of course, the American had an even better story. He was in bed in the middle of the night. His wife woke up and answered the phone. Can you imagine that? You're like, honey, wake up. The Nobel Committee is on the line. Wow.
You probably want to catch this.
Yeah, that would be like, honestly, too, like, I would never take that call. So I would not have gotten that call. I have my phone set up to be silent at night, so I would not even have gotten the call at all. And
well, I'm sure they might have tried again. It's not like if they don't catch you the first time, you lose it.
You don't win?
Yeah,
Well,
I doubt it.
Because otherwise I would be screwed, Heather.
Yeah. I imagine they kind of expected that they might not be able to get a hold of the American in the middle of the night. But...
kind of trolling them, really.
Yeah.
And how are you going to go back to sleep after that?
Yeah, no. I'm not going back to sleep right after that.
No. Now, I don't understand how it all works, but I guess it's a completely different committee that's involved with the science end of the Nobel Peace Prize, or a Nobel Prize in physics, than like the Nobel Prize that was just awarded to the EU and things like that. Like, they're completely different organizations in a sense. But I don't understand any of it. That's all I know. Well,
it would make sense. The people who would, like, I could get a grip on the awards in physics. Is there any way I could get a grip on an award in social, economic, political stuff? No.
No.
No, I would fail. I would give it to, Barney the dinosaur. Goodness forbid. I wouldn't know enough. So it makes complete sense that there would be different entities for all these specific things. They're just all connected sort of in a group.
And you never know. That call in the middle of the night could be the Nobel Committee calling to give us a prize in podcasting. So we should take those late night calls.
Yeah, they open up a podcasting.
I'm going to have my ear out for it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So, like, make a note of your phone. It's like, from Europe, make a noise.
Yeah. I wonder if we can do that. That's pretty fancy. I might be able to do that, though. Any other thoughts on that one?
Just some people were wondering why the Higgs didn't get it. The boson, the big announcement that CERN made on July 4th.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of speculation that would get it. Well, there is a remote possibility that it is actually not the Higgs. It hasn't been identified as the Higgs boson because they haven't identified, its properties. Now, if it's not the Higgs boson, that's still big news because something's there and we think we know what it is. And if it's not, that's just as ground shaking.
It's probably next year's.
Almost more.
It's probably next year's.
Well, yeah, it will eventually win. The question is just when will it win? And then there's other complications. There were 6 physicists, each working about at the same time, working off each other's work, that within 4 months, all were published back in 1964 talking about this kind of a particle. The first ones were a Belgian who died last year and Francois Englert. The next one was Higgs. He was the third person to publish, but he was actually the first person to say that the particle would explain a connection to mass. So what it comes down to is they only put 3 names on there. Now, it can be an entity, an organization, but out of all the thousands of physicists who would work at the 2 labs at CERN, experimentalists, are this going to be the theoreticians, the people who wrote the articles, the experimentalists like CERN? Now, you could actually name CERN itself as one of the winners.
Oh.
But the Nobel, the Peace Prize award is awarded to organizations. Other Nobel Prizes are awarded to organizations. The Science Prize is definitely more often than not, delivered to specific individuals. So what 3 names will be on there? You can't give them posthumously, which was why there was some push to go ahead and do it tonight or this year, because Higgs, he's 83, he's getting on in years, and so there was some push to kind of maybe, well, why don't you just kind of fudge it a little and so he can have his name on there. But in the end, it wasn't for sure. We can't, until they have all the information about its, what it's doing, then they can say whether or not what exactly it is, award it for the Higgs boson, or wait until we find something like the Higgs boson. So it was kind of interesting. I honestly, I really didn't think they would. I wasn't quite sure, but I thought there was a good chance that they wouldn't because it wasn't for sure. They couldn't make a specific announcement.
It does make sense. You're right.
And, reading up all the other things, I didn't realize that it could only 3 names or organizations could go on there.
I didn't know that either.
So it does make it specifically more interesting and a complication, especially for this kind of stuff, where you have the people who think about what it is and then the people who actually prove. So there's two very different sides of it, and who really gets up on top.
Could be the basis for a fantastic science reality TV show. Right,
Oh,
you could vote each other off the island, and then the last 3 scientists standing get the prize.
Vote off the science island.
Could be a new way to fund projects.
You are the Linkus League. Goodbye. Whoosh, off the island you go.
Your science is they can have science quizzes, and whoever fails the most gets voted. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
You're given a couple of rolls of duct tape, and you have to make yourself a duct tape boat and paddle off the island.
Oh, I would fail that badly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, very cool. Now, links in the show notes to that stuff. Anything in particular you want to direct people's attention to?
No, there are. Well, for the most part, there is I've actually got the link to the official website for the Nobel Prizes. So if you're interested in any of the others that I didn't want to or didn't get to have a chance to talk about, go ahead and head over there and check it out.
Very nice. Now, why don't we take a pause right here and reflect on a very disturbing fact. One that seems to be in my thoughts a lot these days, and that is the holidays. I'm thinking about birthdays. Angela's birthday's in November, right? And my mom's birthday, and then, of course, it's Christmas. And boy, oh boy. And you know what? It happens faster than I can even remember. And I just want to say, this would be an excellent time if folks want to help support the network while they're doing their holiday shopping. Head over to jupiterbroadcasting.com. Now, we have links down there to our affiliates. If you don't, if you're on a computer you're not normally at and you just need to do some shopping, you can head to our site first if you want to. And we just added eBay down there. If you're going to get somebody Netflix, you know what, Netflix, seriously, the great thing about Netflix, just click our link first. That way your shopping session's tagged for us. And then you can send it as an email gift. And you can print out a little thing. And it sounds like maybe that's like taking the easy way out. But if somebody doesn't have Netflix, that's not the easy way. That's actually a really great gift, and you can get them 3 months. I love Netflix, and that link right there will give us a little kickback. But what I would like to really mention is our affiliate extensions, because then you don't have to really think about it, and we're always adding even more than what we have linked at our site, because I don't want to get it too cluttered down there. So we add more in here, like different country support and things like that. So we have links to our Chrome and Firefox extension at the bottom of jupiterbroadcasting.com. You can click that and just add that to your browser, and then it just takes care of it for you.
Always so helpful for those of us that are kind of forgetful sometimes,
yes.
more often than not.
Yes, you see how you can understand why I was inspired to get an extension made. So
yes.
So thank you everyone who does that. And Heather made a pick last week, and I just wanted to mention it again because it was a really great one. Is Star Wars: The Clone Wars is coming out the season 4 on Blu-ray on the 23rd of this October. And if you have yourself a Blu-ray player and you're looking for something that really is going to make that thing shine, this is going to make you drool. You are not going to believe your eyes when you see this thing on Blu-ray. So we're going to put this in the show notes. If you buy a Star Wars: The Clone Wars Season 4 or anything at Amazon while you're shopping, portion of your purchase goes to this here very show. Interestingly enough, with the new Kindles coming out too, probably worth a mention, one of the things that we get the highest margin on, and probably because Amazon makes it themselves, are the Kindle. I don't know if we get the same that we used to, but we used to get on the more expensive ones, I'm sure it's not this anymore. But on the more expensive ones, we used to get $20, $25 a Kindle.
Wow.
Yeah. So if a few people get Kindles for Christmas, that's nice.
Yeah. And even a special little note off the side. Plus, I supported science.
Yes. There you go. Well, it's what Kindle does, or what? What do you mean?
Science. Would you give the present?
Oh.
You'd be like, not only did I get you a present, but I supported science.
Yeah, that's true. You supported one of the best weekly science podcast on the internet. I don't know of any better one than this one right here. So there's the best one I know of. All right. Well, with all that done, thank you everyone for who that does that. Why don't we move on to the news bite? All right. What is our first story in the news bite?
We have returned. Talked about the Red Bull Stratos jump last week, and it actually happened on Sunday.
Yeah, it did it.
So, reached an altitude of 128,000 feet, overshot. And actually, I saw it lift off, and I was excited. If you actually got to see it, there's a highlights clip in the show notes on the images. But you could see, the balloon's going up, and then the crane is just whipping down the runway so that it's vertical. That way he doesn't swing and hit the runway before he goes up. But as they show the videos as it goes up, and they're actually able to watch them from cameras on the ground.
Huh.
He hooked it up so that they had really powerful, telescopic cameras watching it. Sometimes in the infrared, sometimes in the regular. But I saw the balloon getting so big, and I saw it hitting certain altitudes, and it was still going up. They hit the 125,000. They're like, all right. And then it kept going up at 1,000 feet a minute.
Wow.
And these balloons have a pop altitude. There's a specific altitude that they will pop. And they started talking. You could kind of hear it like, all right, are we going forward? Or are we going to, keep the capsule locked up and he's just going to come down in the capsule? And that was partly because you have to have that done before the balloon pops. Because once the balloon pops, that's probably quite a bit more difficult and a whole bunch more complications going on.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I noticed. I was like, uh-oh, I bet not many people are thinking this. Because I've dealt with these kind of balloons before, and they hit a float altitude.
We're just kind of pleasantly unaware of the risk when we're watching.
Of the risk of the balloon popping right over his head.
Mm-hmm.
So, he did have there's a couple of quote-unquote records that haven't been specifically identified yet or approved. Reached a speed of 706 miles per hour, so he actually got to 1.2 Mach. He didn't really feel anything. He said there was like a pressure, and then there was less pressure. That was about it. And it's actually funny, it was on the anniversary of Chuck Yeager's breaking the sound barrier in an airplane. And he said something similar. He's like, he was really hoping for really dramatic something, and there wasn't really anything dramatic.
I seem to remember watching live, though, when he broke that sound barrier, he started flipping like head over feet, it looked like in the video, like they're showing it right now. And it just like was head over feet for a little bit, and then he kind of straightened out again. Was that?
No, that's right at the start. You won't hit your maximum speed right at the start. What happened was the air is so thin that you can't have resistance to keep straight. They expected there to be some spin.
Okay.
There's very little ability to control yourself. You have to hit to the atmosphere has to be so thick, so you had to come down to a certain altitude in order for there to be enough air molecules around you so that you could kind of maneuver somewhat. Kinninger, the guy in the last record holder who was in the control room, when he made a jump back in 1959 or 60, he got into a spin that actually knocked him out. It was like, they calculated it was like 22 Gs.
Well, listening to his audio, it did sound like he got a little disoriented during it because he was slurring a lot, and they were having to ask him to repeat quite a few things.
Yeah, well, he probably had a few things on his mind.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not criticizing, but it did seem like he got a little wonky. Yeah,
they did have an ongoing issue about the heater on the faceplate, which means it was fogging up.
Right.
He said, I'm pretty foggy, and they really expected him to go through free fall a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And to me, my guess is he wanted to push it as far as he could, but because the fogging, he probably didn't want to push his luck. So he's like, all right, let's slow this down, and I'll go through parachute for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some disorientation about, which way was east, which way was north. And, as they were coming down, he's having a little bit of, issue angling to where he was supposed to go. But it's kind of funny. Everyone's all about this edge of space thing. Wasn't really the edge of space. I mean, it only got to about 48% of the altitude that NASA awards pilot astronaut wings to. They say, 50 miles and you pilot, we award you astronaut wings. And he got to about a little less than 50% of that. Now, what's generally accepted as quote unquote space is like 60 miles. So he got to 40% of that. So he was like 40% of the way to the edge of space. Sort of.
Huh.
And, some people were talking about this as, scientific proof. And there was some science to it. He was testing, the spacesuit and how maneuverable it could be. But I know some people were saying, well, it could be for bailout for, private space flight or...
Oh, that's
interesting. I saw
interesting.
somebody that talked about the space station, but it really wouldn't work for the space station.
Right.
Because he only flew like 12% of the orbit of the space station.
Right.
So, you have the obvious check of giant publicity. There is some science to it. There was some, he wants to push it to the edge of and beyond. I saw one quote that he's like, all right, now I'm going to find myself a wife and pilot helicopters for search and rescue. That's it.
Well, yeah, he probably won't have a hard time doing that, so.
Yeah. Call it on a high note. You're like, you know what? I, gathered half the luck in my entire life. I did this. I'm good.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, now I'm looking forward to being the old man in mission control when the next guy tries to break my record.
It's of course the Red Bull's behind this. The guy that runs Red Bull is he walked out of college with a degree in marketing. That's what his focus is. So he knows how to do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So good on them. This was fun to watch. And the other record that he broke was Livestreams. YouTube had 8 million concurrent live views of the event as it was happening. That's a record. The previous record for YouTube, I believe, was either 1 million or 500,000. It was substantially low. So they didn't just break the record; they shattered the record, which I think is really encouraging for a lot of different reasons. I think it's encouraging for sort of not the changing of the guard, but the signaling of a new era in media, and it shows that people can organize online for media, and it shows that people are interested in science-y type events. Although there's a lot of action spin on this, but people are still very interested in this kind of space stuff.
I would have liked there to be a bit more science embedded somewhere. But, because there were, a lot of people watching. And they could have had a little bit of science. Although,
the high level space capsule, it's jumping. And at the high level,
idea is there.
Yeah, it's making
and
at
those
least,
interested will go out and maybe search for something.
It's at least making that stuff part of a dialogue again. I guess that's one benefit, right? And I love seeing new media benefit from that as well, even if it's just in bursts. It's interesting, and I enjoyed watching it. We watched it live during the Linux Action Show. He actually jumped during one of our segment breaks. In fact, if you look at the last 30 seconds of the Linux Action Show, it's our clips of our reactions when he jumped, and we kind of jumped with him, and it was really fun to watch it. And the chat room was really into it.
Oh yeah.
So it was good times to watch, and now maybe they do it again, only they take it a little bit further, right? They go, so this one was only 40%, maybe next time they get to 60% or something like that.
Yeah, just inch it up slow but sure. Good luck to them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Heather. Well, with that covered, then should we move on to the 2Byte News?
Let's go.
Let's hit it. 2Byte News. 2Byte News. 2Byte News. No, it's the 2Byte News, not the 3Byte, because it's a
high byte.
There we go. Not the 4Byte News, it's the 2Byte News. All right, Heather, well, what's our first story?
All right. A quick note, there's some major exoplanet news today and yesterday going on, including an Earth-sized exoplanet that has been discovered at our nearest star. And there's also citizens, I've talked about it a few times, this, planet hunters, where it's crowdsourcing science. You go and you look at the Kepler data and you see the dips and you can say, hey, I think this is a planet. They've actually identified a planet from them, and it was in a 4-star system.
Whoa, 4-star? Whoa, really?
Yes.
Whoa, that's got to be hot.
Yeah. Next week, I'm going to have a lot more on both of those. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned them.
Oh, okay.
And kind of tease for next week so I can really get all the information together.
Oh, yeah. I'm really interested in the 4-star
because I did not want to shortchange either one of those stories.
Well, that's really cool. And I just want to say, howdy, neighbor, to our new neighbors.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
All right. A musical dental drill. So, because we all love going to the dentist.
Uh-huh.
And we all love that awful, terrible evil sound of the drill. Yes. So there was a dental surgeon in Indonesia. I'm not going to try to pronounce his poor city's name. He actually hooked a MP3 player up to the drill so that it would play loud enough to drown out the whine of the instrument.
You are kidding me.
And he did all these kind of things because a great deal of his patients were kids. So he put little toys and flashing lights on the end of it, and they realized the sound itself. Well, it all came because he's like, all right, they're not afraid of me. They're not afraid of pretty much anything. They're afraid of the drill. So let's try now. Let's see what we can do. Oh, look, little toys on the end of it. And it's like, okay, now it's the sound. All right, let's see what we can do. And he actually hooked it up so the wider you open your mouth, the louder the sound gets.
Huh.
So it's kind of not, you don't want, theoretically, you wouldn't have to be told, all right, open your mouth, open your mouth, open your mouth.
It's like a bone speaker? It's not like how is he transmitting this sound? Do you know? Is it transmitting through your tooth? Because I know that sounds crazy, but I actually have a Jabra Jawbone Bluetooth headset that uses the bone for the microphone.
Yeah, and there's those toothbrushes that do the same. I think it might be. I wasn't completely clear in the article I saw.
It's really funny, though.
Yeah, he did all the research and effort in about a year and for a little under $600.
They've gone down there. The medicalexpress.com says they confirmed the doctor's claims by actually visiting the drill in use on a young female patient who says her daughter no longer fears going to the dentist.
Yes. So it's funny because he made it specifically for the kids, but in his practice, but quite a few of the adults are kind of can I have the music, please?
So he's been using his practice since 2006.
Yeah. Now he's presented it to modified drill to the attendees of the International Dental Congress held in Greece earlier this year. So he did it for himself. Now he's kind of putting it out there and maybe seeing, what might happen.
I thought you were going to tell me they were doing it with sound waves or something.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not entirely sure. They didn't make it clear in the article as I saw it as to how they were. It could be sound.
Yeah, he should just eat. I agree with Dad in the chat room. Or no, Creepy Uncle. He deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for this.
Yeah, because we'll all be happier.
Right. All right.
I know I want to take my little MP3 player and crank the sound up as loud as I can.
Do you? My dentist office has sunglasses with screens built in where you watch a movie.
Yeah, I have some coworkers that are the same.
Doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
And plus the sunglasses, sound would make a big difference. Sound would make a big difference. All right, well, why don't we do the spacecraft update? So I got this little button right here. I push that, makes that sound, because it means it's time for the spacecraft update.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to talk a little Endeavour, aren't we?
Yes, we are. It has finally found its new home. So we reached the threshold of the California Space Center hangar at about 2 p.m. California time on October the 14th. So they had they removed a temporary wall. All right, we're going to remove the rear wall and then kind of put it back.
Oh, really?
Now, this one, they're actually going to exhibit it vertical. So they're going to hoist it up so it's going to sit completely vertical like it would on the launch pad. They're going to have some, recreate, replica external fuel tanks. So they'll kind of show it that way, which is interesting. Now, the whole trip itself was crazy. The drive. I was talking,
right.
Last week they had to use the Toyota to drive it over the highway.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't have, computer-driven things over the highway. So they had to, there were a couple complications about transferring it to various, wheeled motors or all the various means of transportation, how they moved it. Then there was, it was supposed to take 2 days, but it ended up taking 3 days because there was a little bit of a miscalculation.
Uh-oh.
And it looked like it was in some residential area. It was quasi-residential. And they're like,
Looks like they stopped at the donut shop, actually, is what it looks like. Yeah,
they made a stop at the donut shop, too. So, a giant donut for the shuttle.
That's awesome.
That's an awesome picture. Yep, donuts and shuttle.
Good. Do they actually get out and have some donuts?
Oh, maybe.
I hope so. I see there's a Shell gas station across the street, too, so if they needed to fill up on gas, they could.
There you go.
So is it actually being towed with a Toyota truck?
For across over the overpass, it was.
Is this like a sponsored thing?
Yeah, they did have a sponsorship somewhere in there.
That's a pretty incredible sponsorship to be able to say your truck pulled your. I mean, that's something you can use in commercials for a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be displayed also, the truck itself.
Oh yeah, sure. It's famous. It's a famous truck now.
Yeah, it
space shuttle truck.
Space
shuttle truck. Yeah.
I towed a tractor. Oh, it's okay. Look at my motorhome. I trade it. I hauled.
Now, what I also like about, and I don't know who did this, but here's what I like to picture. So they had these shuttle crossing signs that they put up. And what I like to believe is that NASA just had these all along, like in the NASA warehouse for opportunities, like because NASA just thought of everything, right? And so they had these, and then they just went and got these. I prefer not to think that they just made these for this event. You think I'm right there?
If in the Chris universe you want it to be right,
I do a lot.
Okay, the Chris universe, that can be true.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, for the rest of us, no. No, you're in the Chris universe.
Yeah,
you didn't hear that part.
Okay, good.
But it came so close a couple of times that they had to, forget 3-point. It was like 10-point. Drive forward a little bit and back up and slowly try to maneuver past trees and all sorts of various stuff. So, but they finally got it across. There was a lot of people who went and saw it.
Yeah.
So,
as they should, right? I would if I was in the area. Oh man, I'd so be down there. I'd be taking video. I'd be posting that video online. Then I'd be getting YouTube takedowns. It'd be great. Very cool. All right. Well, keep us posted if anything else happens. But I guess for now, it's at its home.
Yep. For now, they're all tucked away in their various homes and just prepping for their display sections to open.
Now we just wait for somebody to go in there and hijack it and take it off and just fly out of there. You let us know when that happens.
We on SciByte do not condone you actually trying to steal the space shuttle.
But if you do, tweet about it, put it up on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you want to mention us.
Yeah, don't mention us.
Don't mention us.
No. But do tweet at JB_Mars_base.
No. She totally didn't have anything to do about this. She told me not to do this, and I did it anyway. That's pretty much all you could say.
All right, so let's talk about this. This has been a topic that's been on the show a few times, but I keep seeing headlines about it. Is Voyager 1 in interstellar space?
They are getting in the magnetic data now. This is the one they've seen 2 of the 3 things that they want to happen. The high energy cosmic rays from outside our solar system have jumped. The particles from the sun have dropped. And they've actually, at one point they dropped and then they jumped back up and they dropped and they jumped back up. Now they've been really low all the way since August.
Yeah.
Now, the third thing is for the magnetic field. The sun has a magnetic field in one direction and they expect that the galaxy itself will have a magnetic direction in a different direction.
Okay. So you start seeing it go the other way.
Yeah, so you're going to see a flip to some unknown degree of the magnetic field.
Oh.
Now, there's a small possibility that's in the same direction, but very unlikely. There's 360, degrees, 180 in different ways it can be oriented.
Right.
So they're going through the data now, and it seems to me, I was kind of reading in between the lines.
Seems like they're thinking it is. I mean,
they're pretty much, they say they're analyzing the data and they're reanalyzing it. So my guess is that every single person on that team is going to be absolutely sure and double check 20 times. Because they don't want to say, oh my gosh, we're in interstellar space, and then 2 months later go, maybe not.
Boy, but you look at this, though, it's been all the other previous times. I'd be really surprised if it goes up, but you just never know, I guess. In fact, it's still trending downwards. Even if you look at the very end of the data that we have now, it's still trending downwards. Yeah.
Now, the complication to all this is we really don't have any idea what to expect. Data from back in 2010 broke the only working model we had. So we really don't know. That's part of the reason why it's always been so, oh my gosh, we're close. Oh my gosh, we're close. Because
it's been like that for a while now.
Yeah. Unique in the chat room. Isn't interstellar space relative? That's kind of where it comes in. It's where is the boundary? And we're kind of figuring that out as we go. And then as we go, we're going to make definitions.
Right. But we're basically, I mean, geez, wow, that's really exciting. Look at us go, huh? Look at us. Look at us just sending stuff out there.
Almost there.
Next step, noticed by the Vulcans. So we're right on track.
Okay.
Right on track. All right. So one of the things that kind of came up when we were covering the SpaceX launch was that faulty engine, right?
Yes.
Now, did that lead to this the issues with the satellite?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, because they had to deal with NASA for the Dragon spacecraft, NASA said, if one of your engines fails, then you are not allowed to make the second boost, which Orbcomm needed.
So it wasn't a technical failure at that point?
No, it absolutely was not. It was that NASA said, should one of your engines fail, you are not allowed to make the second boost that it needed, because it wanted to make sure that there was an excess of fuel involved for maneuvering with the space station, and they wanted to make sure that that was absolutely on mark, and because that was going to launch into the orbit of the space station, and they wanted it to be of maximum, protection.
Aha.
So they had that deal to say, and they told Orbcomm, the people of the satellite, they're like, here are our rules. We're going to do the best we can for you. They had an insurance policy. They're going to take it out. It really was only the test model. They're putting it up to get all the data. Now, they said that they probably have enough data for the whole thing. That just from what they had, they were able to detect that the solar arrays, the communications, all deployed.
Oh, no kidding.
That there was power and altitude control, and all these various things happened. So they had just requested, hey, can we put our small prototype up here so we can test it, get our test data? And they have, and they did it. So there was that obvious issue. Now, it's just a matter of Orbcomm isn't really mad. They're going to continue using SpaceX for the rest of their satellites. It wasn't particularly a groundbreaking error on their part.
Right.
It was that they had a deal with NASA. Okay, if this happens, we're not allowed to, do the bells and whistles. We have to be focused on the Dragon spacecraft going to the space station.
Makes sense.
So just kind of some ongoing as the facts roll out. Just wanted to keep everybody updated about that.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. Now, should we do a little update on Opportunity? Isn't it getting a little grabby out there? We haven't talked about Opportunity for a little while.
Yeah, I know. He's been outshone by his younger...
Bigger.
Younger, bigger brother, grandson, whatever you want to call it.
Cousin?
So
I don't know,
yeah, it's still trucking along. It's still doing its science. It's actually near a giant... large, light-toned exposed rock outcrop that they actually were able to go out, and they had the rock abrasion tool. They're able to still use that, so they reached out and they brushed the surface with that on the October the 6th. And in order to get near it, so they used the arm to get close to it, and then they moved the rover in like the smallest amount ever done. They moved it an inch. They moved the rover itself an inch.
Just so very precise measurements.
They're like, dink. And that's it. They're like, okay, go very, very slowly in a very small amount. So they could get, up close to this rock.
Wow,
so
cool.
They, brushed it for 15 minutes. And then they took some...
How you doing?
For mosaics. And then they used their X-ray spectrometer to take, overnight... images of what was going on. So it's still trucking. It's gone, almost about 21.75 of miles. So it's still trucking. It's still actually doing its science, and it still has the abrasion tool, so it can go out and scuff rocks and take a spectrometry on it. So
very cool, very cool. Good for it. And now we're getting science from all over Mars. Speaking of which, should I fire off our Curiosity update?
You can.
And liftoff of the Atlas V with Curiosity.
That's a wheel. That's a wheel,
That was
Heather.
a wheel.
All right.
It was.
It was. Hey, you know
All
what?
the science in the world and on Mars, and it's a wheel. It's still very, very exciting.
That's like when, and this is going to be maybe not quite as apt, but, when you're having a baby. Hey, that's a head. That's a head. I recognize that. That's a head. Oh, my God. It's actually happening. We did it. Right? It's kind of like that. They're like, oh, man, because it's like, not only are we getting pictures back, so that means the data connection's working and that all the equipment to do that's working, but the wheel's intact. That's a lot. That's good news, too.
Wheel's intact. It's on the ground. It's actually in the place it's supposed to be. It's awesome.
So what's it up to?
Alrighty. So the first rock that it was integrating, that it was talked about that a couple weeks ago. It actually was a lot more varied composition than any other mission has seen on Mars. It was made from a really unusual but well-known type of igneous rock found in many volcanic provinces on Earth. It generally comes from a process when the mantle beneath the crust, and it's crystallized from relatively water-rich magma at really high pressure.
Magma.
Yep, so there's water, there's magma, there's pressure. So they actually saw this on Mars, which is the first time it's actually been seen there. So more evidence of water and kind of interesting new geological science going on there. Also continued talked about it last week, the foreign object debris, the shiny object.
Oh, yeah. What was with that? Any more news?
They determined it was just a piece of plastic, maybe even a piece of shrink tube. Once I saw the up-close picture of it, it did look like a piece of shrink tube. Now, it could be from the rover, or it really could have been from one of the descent stages. The back shell that popped off, or any of those things. That little piece of shrink tube just floated about in the atmosphere and landed right there. So either one. So it's benign. They're not worried about it. So they're able to. So they were holding their first scoop until they figured out what that was. So they released that. They actually went in for the second scoop. Then from where they scooped it up, they actually saw some more kind of shiny particles, some bright particle material. And so then they stopped again. They're like, okay, great. Is this whole area contaminated? What's going on? And then they looked closer, and it was actually, so they dumped the second scoop. And they went for the third, and they actually saw that some of the bright particles were in the clods of regolith itself. So they're like, okay, so...
Sparkles. There's sparkles.
Yeah, the sparkles were in the soil. So they went in for the third scoop. And so they're now going to be looking forward to further investigation of all these bright particles and see if they can figure out what exactly they are and, everything that's going on about them.
Huh. I think it's pretty wild to watch these completely two different built rovers get the science done at the same time. I mean, we talk a lot about budget cuts and things like that, but in some ways, they're really rocking some really good projects over there too. Yeah.
Well, you really got to take what you can, because there's not going to be another rover mission for a little while now.
Oh, okay.
So
better enjoy it while we can, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Get everything out of it that you can.
It's interesting. They just found that. It's like, it's just some science, or just some plastic. No big deal. Just plastic.
Yeah, we'll stop, look at it, analyze it very closely. They're like,
it's boring. It's just plastic. I was hoping it was like, alien candy wrapper or something.
No.
You don't think that could be what it was?
No, probably not.
Too bad. All right. Well,
I mean, if it was an alien candy wrapper, they probably would have stuck gum on the top of the rover.
Heather has a link to the YouTube video they do where they do their weekly update on what's going on. They have cool images and things to check out, although not hosted by Mohawk Guy. Apparently, his Mohawk's too good for YouTube these days, so it's hosted by
They're changing it out every week. They get a new...
Headphones around the neck, guys. It was on this week. I don't care for headphones around the neck.
There's plenty of images about some of the things that I talked about, the foreign object, the bright particles, and the scoops. So great links, great YouTube stuff and images, so hop on over there if you're interested in checking any of that out.
Absolutely. And Heather, why don't you hop in the time machine? Here we go.
All right. Wait.
Close the door. And flip that lever, would you?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there it goes.
All right. Okay. Just a quick trip.
I don't know what I just did. But.
Well, so I didn't want us to go too far because this time we're only going back 50 years, October 18th, 1962.
That's right. It's Nobel Prize, theme going on today. Dr. James D. Watson of the U.S. And Dr. Francis Crick and Dr. Maury Wilkins of Britain won the Nobel Prize for medicine and physiology for determining the double helix molecular structure of DNA.
Oh, how about that?
So that's a lot of tongue-twisting words that I almost got through.
And a great discovery.
Yeah, they figured out that there was had the double helix 50 years ago.
There you go. Wow, only 50 years.
Yeah.
There's people that there's people down the road that they'll just be like, no big deal that we've discovered that, but that's actually still fresh in our living memory.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, then why don't we look up into the sky this week?
Alrighty. Thursday, October the 18th, right about at twilight, Mars and Antares, orangish star, will be close into the lower right of the moon. And Antares will be slightly brighter, but Mars will be higher because Mars is more awesome. It'll be on top.
Yeah.
Speaking totally unbiased. On Saturday, October the 20th, right about fading twilight, they'll still be pretty close together and in the southwest. And this time, Mars will be to the upper right of Antares. On the whole this week, we've got Mercury. You can see low in the west to southwest, about 30 minutes after sunset. Venus this week is about an hour before sunset. It'll be rising high in the east. An hour before sunrise. It'll be high in the east by dawn. And then Mars in the evening twilight, you'll be able to see that low in the southwest. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying, to the left or near Antares. And Jupiter, you'll be able to see about a little after sunrise. Sunrise about rises in the east to northeast this week.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
So that's around, you say 9 a.m. in the show notes. Heather has all that listed out in the show notes, too, if you forget some of that and you want to check it out. So, all right, Heather. Well, I think that's the whole show.
Think so.
Wow, heck of a week this week in science. And, of course, we do this here very show every single week over at jblive.tv Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And then it's available for download Wednesday mornings over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. You can also get a hold of Twitter, or Heather on Twitter at jb_Mars_base, or email the show, SciByte at jupiterbroadcasting.com. And Heather, thank you for a great show.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone in the chat room who joined us this week and were stars in our chat room. Hope you guys join us next week. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I hope you join us next week. See you right here.